All right, guys, welcome to Onelife Podcast. My guest today is Sara. She is a teacher. She is getting to motivational speaking. She is coming up with contraptions to help other people.
Yeah.
And she's been through extreme adversity. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited. I'm grateful for you being here. You've been through something that I couldn't wish on anybody. Nobody wish on the worst enemy. We're going to get a little bit of backstory and kind of get into it. So where do we start?
Where do you want to start?
Yeah. So I guess at age 16, you had a horrific accident.
Right. Yeah. I had a rock climbing accident when I was 16 and I broke my neck.
Even that, just hearing that alone, I broke my neck.
Broke my neck when I was 16.
That's so heavy. I have a daughter. That upsets me. That makes me really
yeah, right.
I couldn't imagine what that must have been like.
Right. It was
You're still
pretty
a baby.
life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? Where were you? What happened? Who were you with?
We were out by Lake Mead. So just here in town, not too far. And there was a great place to go rappelling and do some free rock climbing.
Okay.
It wasn't at the lake, it was across the lake. So just in that general area. I was with a church group that was very well run and everything was safe. They had it all done properly, but I was the one that went off on my own and did some free rock climbing because I thought I knew.
Were you adventurous?
I was super adventurous,
Gotcha.
yes. Well, still am, but yeah. I had done some rock climbing previously over the years, but always with gear and always all the safety precautions. And I was on probably just this high of going rappelling. We went commando. We were going face down. It was really exhilarating.
Really?
I had just come off of a week before finishing my first triathlon.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just like...
So you're very fit.
Feeling on top of the world, I guess. Yeah.
So how far up were you?
Probably about 20 feet. The thing was, nobody saw it happen.
Oh, damn.
No. So they found me just moments after I had fallen, but I left and was on my own doing some free rock climbing. And so when they found me, I had already fallen. So nobody saw.
So how far you'd fallen?
How far I was up.
So it could have been 5 feet for all they knew.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I remember is I had climbed up the backside and then was rock climbing down the face. And it got to a point where it had concaved in a bit and I couldn't get down any further. And I was like, well, I could jump, but that's pretty far. I don't want to get hurt. So I was thinking, I'll climb back up and then go down the backside.
Which is probably just as hard.
So I got higher and then either lost my grip, got tired. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Not really. Not the details of it, thank God.
What's the last thing you remember?
I remember thinking I was up and I was like, oh, this isn't good. I'm gonna fall. I knew it. And then I remember being on the ground and thinking, oh, I must have fallen. And I was on my back, so I flipped myself over and tried to push myself up to stand up, but I couldn't. So when
you were
they
able
found
to flip
me,
yourself over there.
I was able to flip myself over.
That's interesting.
At least that's how I remember it.
And going back to what I know about spinal injuries is you're not supposed to move.
Right. Yeah.
So you being a 16-year-old, not knowing the extreme of what you possibly could have done.
Right.
Do you think you maybe have made it worse?
Possibly. There's a great possibility. I have thought that.
I mean, my dad's was a firefighter, and he's like, spinal injuries, do not move.
Rule.
You wait for the professional to come there.
Exactly.
And I'll, oh my God.
But I don't
you're
think
a 16-year-old
I even
kid.
realized.
No, why would you?
I just fell and
I could have broken my back. That's probably the last thing through your mind.
Oh, let me just get up.
Gotcha.
So go meet the group.
So what was the reaction when people who found you?
My best friend.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my best friends at the time, she found me, Emily, and she immediately called for help. She stayed right with me to make sure I was okay. And then the adults came by, they found the ranger and, took the medical procedures necessary that they needed to.
Okay.
And Flight for Life came.
So they didn't move you, they'll be professional. Okay.
By the time everyone came to me, it was handled. I was told by the paramedics, it was they couldn't have practiced it more perfectly. A perfect rescue.
Oh, really?
For what it was. Everything just went seamless and flawless. And
so everybody did what they're meant to do in the right order.
Yeah.
So that's nice to know.
Right.
Because I mean, sometimes that's the worst part is people not knowing what to do and doing the wrong things. I'm
sure it could be bad.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I lucked out for that.
Yeah, that's a hell of a backstory. I mean, I've had some stories here, but I'm so sorry.
But you know what? When they told me, I remember this. They were like asking me all these questions. What day is it? What's your name? You know, and I'm like in and out of it, laying on the ground. And I remember saying, I can't move my legs. Am I paralyzed?
Oh, wow.
And I said that to them, and they all just kind of like, oh, we'll see. We're gonna get you to the hospital, but you're gonna take a helicopter because it'll be faster, right? And I thought, oh, that's cool. I've never been in a helicopter before. And I was really excited about the helicopter ride, which I don't remember at all.
Oh, really?
No.
Were you in pain? Can you remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
What's the pain like?
Well, at first, like I couldn't feel my lower extremities, so that's why I was asking if I had been paralyzed. Yeah. But I had broken my right wrist, and that's what I could feel.
Gotcha.
And I was like, my wrist really hurts. And then they were like, oh, let's put it on the backboard because it was kind of just in the way.
Yeah.
I'm like, it hurts, and that was all I could feel.
Gotcha. So the rest of it was numb.
I couldn't really feel anything else at that point. So it was in and out. It was just like in the movies, you know, like you're in and out, you're all dazed and confused, and then all of a sudden you're at the hospital, you don't even know how it happened. And then
like your parents are there.
Yeah, and then my parents show up, we're in the ER. The doctors and everyone tell my parents, we're gonna take her in for testing, all the MRI, the CAT scans and all that. And when they found out what had happened, oh, your daughter broke her neck. The C6 vertebrae has imploded and it's smashing her spinal cord. So we need to go in and remove it and put in a donor bone and then fuse.
A donor bone?
Yeah.
Really?
So I have a donor bone.
I didn't know that existed.
My friends named it too.
Really? What's your donor bone?
I think they named it Harry.
Really? I did not know you could. So you're talking about like a one piece of your vertebrae?
Yeah, C6.
Really?
But
wow.
Is replaced with a donor bone.
Wow, I did not know that existed.
And the surgeon, this is funny, the surgeon said to my parents after, well, I was in there and they gave me a bone this big and I only needed a bone this big.
Well, it's funny. I was going to ask you, you're a 16-year-old kid. So does that mean it's got to come from a child?
You know, that's a good question. I never asked.
Or a small female?
I don't know.
Because obviously you can take my size. I mean, I don't think
He almost made it sound like he crafted it to the size he needed it to be. But wow, that's a question for a surgeon because I don't know.
That's fascinating. What was your parents? Were they breaking down? Were they strong?
No, they were amazing. They took all the information from the doctors and the nurses and the professionals, and they came to me and they filtered it beautifully.
Really?
So they came to me always positive, always hopeful, always just very strong faith-based, prayer-based. And they were calling out to all over our friends and family all over the world, send in prayers for Sara. She's going through something. And like that just gave me this unwavering belief and faith, I guess, that, oh yeah, this is happening. Oh yeah, I'm going to heal. I'll walk again. I'll do all the things I want to do again. And so when doctors and surgeons and all that would tell me, well, you're a quadriplegic now, Sara, and you're going to have to learn how to do everything again. And I was just like, okay. I was thinking, well, this is an experience and I'm going through it and it's okay, but I will do all these things again. That was just always my mentality.
That's... honestly, I'm having a very hard time with this because I love life so much, and my biggest fear is to be paralyzed or something.
Really?
It's literally been my biggest fear my entire life. And Weird. One life podcast, one life, make the most of it. And it literally and to have something happen out of your control. Like I've had some heavy stuff being told, but some reason it's really heavy for me.
It's really getting you.
It's like really triggers something in me. I think it's just because, and it's not about me. But I mean, I think it's just something that is so like...
It's not unusual to hear that. I've had so many people tell me similar things.
Really?
Yeah.
I love life and I appreciate my toes and fingers and the ability to walk and 2 legs, 2 arms, and a heartbeat. That's the whole reason of this podcast. So it's so amazing to have you here and talking like this. You mentioned something before we started as far as your parents and your parents' attitude and that being a huge thing for you.
Yeah.
What was it exactly? Was it just the fact that they didn't give in on you, or they just, like, the doctors told you weren't going to be able to walk, right?
Yeah, they did.
So your spinal cord wasn't severed, but it was extremely bruised.
Right.
Which is basically it's the same, right?
Probably, I don't know what the percentage is, but I don't think most spinal cord injuries are severed. I think most of
it's
them
just bruising.
Are bruised.
Interesting.
But don't quote me on that because I don't know the statistics
I don't know
on
either.
it.
Okay.
But it's it's, like, you could break your neck and not have a spinal cord injury. Or you can also break your neck and have a spinal cord injury.
Okay.
Or you could just have a spinal cord injury and not break your neck. Like, there's
interesting.
variations.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's
gotcha.
So there's lots of ways you can become paralyzed and different types of paralysis, like as far as how it affects you. So even somebody who has the same exact injury as mine, or on paper it's the same, C6, incomplete quadriplegic, while I'm here ambulating, walking around, and doing things that you don't see other quadriplegics doing, even though they're a C6. That's just the difference in like.
Because Christopher Reeves
his was high. His was really high. I don't remember.
He fell off a horse, right?
Yeah.
Was his bruised or severed? Do you know?
No, I don't remember.
But he couldn't do anything, could he?
Right. His was so high it affected everything.
And he never got any better.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he started this beautiful foundation, Christopher Reeves Foundation for spinal cord injuries. And
there's so many people do so many amazing things from extreme adversity.
Right.
But it sucks that they've got to go through that extreme adversity.
Well, that's part of my message also, is like, I've kind of come to the terms of, we're all going to go through adversity. And part of my personality is just very adventurous and playful. And I thought, why don't people learn how to become adversity adventurists? Like, put those two things together.
What does that mean?
Exactly. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
It's kind of like makes you think, right? Like, what is that?
What are you getting at exactly with that?
That's the way I look at life. So, and I think I've done that, like, unintentionally and maybe a little bit unconscious, because you have to learn how to live a new life. You're going to live your new normal. It's not the same as it was before. It's different now. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean life is over and you're going to do great things still. It's just a mindset shift. So you take that and you take the learnings from it. I'm like, what am I learning from this? Oh, well, I've met tremendous amounts of people that I would have never met, had I not had this accident. I've learned how to be extremely determined in, like, at every aspect of my life.
You probably appreciate everything a million times more than anyone could imagine.
I have a great level of appreciation for any mobility that I have. Yeah, and because also throughout the almost 22 years of living this way after a spinal cord injury, I've had other injuries along the way, or surgeries where I've lost mobility again.
Oh, really?
And I've had to regain it back.
Gotcha.
So I've done this ebb and flow.
You got this crazy strong mind. Would you say you're relentless? What is that mindset you have now? Like, how do you identify that? Relentless almost seems like a little harsh, but maybe. I mean,
Well, definitely with my recovery, like, I definitely have come across others who just were like, oh, well, this is just how it is. And for me personally, I was always under the impression of, this is how it is for now.
I love that.
It's always going to change. That's
some powerful words there. I love that.
Yeah, because that's the only consistent thing in life is change. So if you think of it that way, this is how it is right now, but it's going to change. And then you can kind of like get your head in a space where you can decide how you want that change to look. And you can create your reality.
I like that.
And do things that you were told you could never do.
So the doctors have come in, told you that you're not going to walk, told your parents you're not going to walk. Your parents have told the doctor, yes, she is.
Yeah, they literally told the doctors, do not tell her that. Do not tell her that.
So did the doctor actually tell you that? Or did your parents?
I mean, they did.
Okay.
But they were very like, stop telling. Like, yes, she's heard it. Yes, she knows, like, this
She's
is where
aware
she's
of
at
it.
right now. But we're going to do everything in our power to help her. And she is too, to help herself
Let's
recover.
talk about that. How impactful was that to have your parents think that way? Because, I mean, you're a 16-year-old kid.
Right. I can't imagine.
Are you young enough to be naive to not know how serious it is?
I think I was. There was definitely that.
I mean, I could definitely see that for any person at that age.
Yeah, you just don't really know.
Anybody in general, really.
Right. If you're not in the medical field.
Yeah.
You don't really know the severity.
Yeah. So, I mean, so your parents are like, we're going to do everything we can. So what was that journey and what was that struggle?
Well, let me just praise my mom right now, because both my parents were amazing, but my mom, she closed her business down. She had a business that she ran out of her home, and she closed it down so she could move into the hospital with me and learn how to do everything the nurses were doing and be there for me. Like, the nurses did their job, and then my mom was there doing extra.
Gotcha.
And beyond. And
how good's that?
There was a period of time, I don't even recall how long the period of time was, but when I started getting feeling back, the nerve pain was out of control.
Oh, really?
Unbearable.
Gotcha.
Just felt like shooting pins and needles, stabbing from the bottom of my feet up to probably my waist.
Really?
And it was so uncomfortable, and there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't even move still at that point. My mom would just sit there at the end of my bed, and sometimes she would fall asleep like this, massaging my legs.
Did it help?
Yes, and that was like the only thing that helped.
Gotcha.
So if she would stretch me, move my legs.
So you've got no pain and you want to feel something, and then when you finally do, it's extreme pain.
It is extreme.
Which is going to be very unmotivating to want to push any further.
Yeah, you're
not
like,
knowing
what?
It's going to.
I can't move and I can't feel, but I can feel.
Why do
pain.
I want more of this?
Yeah.
Oh my! And when you say, are you talking like 10 out of 10 pain, 9 out of 10? Like,
it was bad.
It was really bad.
Not like 10 out of 10 is like, I'm gonna die from this, in my opinion, but
it was pretty high. It was right up there.
I probably have a really high pain tolerance too after all these years,
yeah,
so
I would
mine
say
might be skewed. I'm like, it may be like a 5, 6, but no, it was probably more like an 8.
Probably an 8, 9.
For me in my life now. But since I've gone through the things I've gone through.
So you got an amazing mom then.
I do.
Have you guys got an amazing relationship?
We do have a good relationship.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Yeah, blessed. I feel very blessed to have the family I have. My sister, she came with me, today. We're like best friends. She was only 14 when it happened, and she held the house down. Like, it was her and my dad at home. My brothers were away serving missions for their church at the time. Yeah. So they were in different countries, and it was just me, my sister, my mom, and my dad when it happened. And she was in her freshman year of high school, and just this amazing athlete, an amazing student, and just kind of like didn't have her parents for a while because they had to focus on me.
I know, that's a good point, right?
That's
a very good point.
That it gets overlooked a lot, and I know this is
I'm thinking about it because 100% is going on you because it needs to go on you, and she's getting neglected because of that.
A little bit, but the way she handled it was just
that's amazing, right?
Beautiful.
And at 14 to be so selfless is crazy, right? Yeah,
unheard of for a teenager.
Like Christmas, birthdays, all these things are not Christmas and birthdays anymore like they used to be.
Yeah, it really shifted things, especially during the hospital stays. And then just after that, like, she now had a disabled sister that she had to help, like, all the time.
All the time, yeah, 24/7, right?
Yeah, like, almost. I mean, I was pretty independent from the get-go, but there were still things, like, even now, I still need help with things. And my family is, and my brothers as well, just, like, beautiful examples and just like these earthly angels that I've been blessed with.
Do you think without that family support you'd be where you're at now? Like,
I don't know.
Where do you think you'd be without that?
I think it would be different. I think like there's me, and there's my personality, and then there's your support system. That backs that strong personality. That is huge for people, which you know people that overcome adversity and trials without that, right? In spite of that, or due to that, without having that support system, and they rise
But how much further could they rise with that support? Yeah.
I don't know. It sure is helpful though.
Yeah.
I feel really grateful.
That's great. And you mentioned there's you've been in a hospital with someone else who didn't have that support.
Oh yeah, at the time.
Well, can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting to see this perspective. Well, it wasn't a perspective, it was just a difference in how a spinal cord injury can affect people, and maybe the support system and maybe the attitude and the outlook and everything. It was just so night and day. We had on paper the same injury, but we had completely opposite recoveries. They started off the same. We started off exactly the same, in a wheelchair, in bed, having nothing. So we're talking, I was relearning how to raise my arms, feed myself, do any normal hygiene, brushing my teeth. I had to relearn all of that. And while we both were in that phase, his just stayed. He stayed right where he was at. And then I was continuing to improve. And by the time I left the hospital, the rehab hospital, after 3 months, I was able to take steps, like at the parallel bars, like walking a little bit. So that was, I guess the biggest difference that I saw was the amount of support we had. I had a mom that lived with me at the hospital. I had another parent, my father, and my sister coming every single day to come in and
every day
check on every day.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And it wasn't close to where we lived. They had to drive quite a ways to get there because it was the only one.
Even that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't have anything? He didn't have family coming in?
I think he had some family and he had some friends, but it wasn't daily, I don't think. And then my school and my friends and my community were huge. My whole room was just covered in well wishes and cards.
Oh, really?
And flowers and balloons, and my sports team members would come in and visit with me. And,
that's amazing.
oh, we just made it to state. We wrote your name on our arm.
Cool.
Because
that'd make you cry and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm sure it did.
My principal came in and gave me an award for my team making it to state because I had missed out on it. So I had a tremendous amount of support, which was huge. And continues to be huge, throughout all this. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm a little emotional.
How long did it take you before you got out of hospital and got back to school and got some type of normal life again, I guess?
Well, my mom coined this phrase, and I've kept it this whole time. She said, "You're going to find your new normal."
Your new normal.
So it was not going to be how it was before.
Yeah.
Which was obvious.
Yeah.
I was still in a wheelchair. Most of the time I could walk part-time, but I wasn't strong enough at that point to be able to get around like I do now. So I started in 3 months in rehab, and then I continued my rehab 3 days a week on an outpatient basis.
Okay.
And then did a homebound school program.
Plus you had your powerhouse mom at home.
Yeah.
With all the skills now. Pushing you as well.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how long till you were able to go back to school?
I went back my next year. I stayed out that whole year. It was my junior year. And then I went back my senior year.
And how was that going back to school? Were you welcome? Was it supportive?
It was. Okay. It was beautiful. It was like walking in and being feeling kind of like a semi-celebrity, because there were so many people that knew about it, and it was in the newspapers and all over on the news actually too. And so I feel like a lot of people at the school knew about me, even if they didn't know me.
Yeah.
And then of course all the staff and admin knew the situation, and I had to have special accommodations made and all that, so I could actually get around.
Gotcha. Was kids very helpful? Kids you didn't know, helping out, going out of the way? Yeah,
I never had an issue with anything being mean or nasty, or people just being.
Did you ever get any bullying or anything?
No.
Really? Mm-mm. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
That's really nice to hear. I did wonder about that. If you did get some idiots or kids that being kids.
No, not when I was in high school.
Okay.
I didn't really. I'm trying to think back, and nobody's ever asked me that question. But I think I would definitely remember if that had happened. And I really don't feel like...
I didn't want to ask, but I was definitely curious because I know how kids can be.
Well, I feel like, to give the teenagers at the time, a pat on the back, is I had a lot of support. And so a lot of people who didn't know me necessarily before were, and if they had seen me in passing, or they would ask, oh, can I carry your backpack? Oh, do you need help with getting to class or whatever? And very, very helpful. Let me get the door for
amazing.
you.
I was at the gym the other day, and there's a guy in a wheelchair, and this other guy walks up and takes the plates off for him. And I was like, dude, that's so cool. And the guy went over his way, wheeled maybe 10 feet across and high-fived him and said, thank you. And it's just really nice to see something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just be appreciative of how good you've got it, and then just to help other people.
Yeah.
And something simple as just taking it back can be so helpful.
It can.
For someone, right? But so easy for somebody else.
Totally can, yeah.
Yeah, I always make sure I open the door for people in wheelchairs or whatever I can, because it's just what you should do.
Oh, well, you think that would be common sense.
It's
not for everyone,
yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's definitely something that I've noticed a lot, and I've seen a lot. People going out of their ways, young, old, male, men,
it doesn't
women,
matter,
doesn't
right?
matter. They'll see
helping
me
somebody
coming.
in need, yeah.
They'll open a door, or I'm not saying people just part the seats.
No. But when you can, and it's obvious, just.
But it happens more than not, where people are more aware of the situation and helpful. They want to be helpful.
As far as your recovery, how long, and did you just get to a point where it's stopped, or has it continued to get better?
That's such a good question. So at first, everything happened really quick.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
The first year especially.
You probably got quite excited with that, I'm sure, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you go from nothing, from having everything to nothing, and then you're like, oh, whoa, I'm getting some back.
How long did it take you to get past the nerve pain, before it started getting? Seems like this was a...
Nerve pain?
Oh, you still get it?
Yes. Well, very recently, the nerve pain has subsided drastically.
Recent, 20 years later.
We're talking very recently,
within
the last few months. And
wow.
I attribute that to something new I'm trying.
Okay.
But up until now, I've been chronic nerve pain, chronic back pain, chronic neck pain, chronic knee pain.
Really? Are they giving you a lot of medication for it?
Oh, they want to... Let's talk about medication.
No, I'd like to, actually, because I know that's a huge...
When I was a teenage girl, it was okay to give me loads and loads of medication. Prescription medications.
The hardcore stuff.
Yeah, we're talking pain patches directly on my skin. We're talking Lortabs or any of the Oxycontin.
Yeah.
I can't even think. I don't even use them anymore.
Yeah, that's what I figured it probably would be.
The really strong stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was so heavily medicated, I could not stay awake.
Oh, really?
I would sit, if I was sitting here talking to you, I'd just be drowsing
just
off.
Yeah.
Because I was that medicated.
Gotcha.
And so after about a year or so of this, and I'm taking it because I was told I had to. You have spasticity, you have nerve pain, you have pain, all these reasons why I had to take it. And I was just thinking, this is too much. This is not.
So it wasn't let's ease into this and just give it a minimal amount. Let's give it everything.
I think they do try to do it that way.
Okay.
But when you go through such an injury like that and your body's just it's not performing the way it should, and you're having massive spasms that are throwing you out of bed or your wheelchair, they have to do something. And that's what they know. And so this has literally been a journey of 20 years for me, where I have been trying countless things. The things I have tried over the years.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want to stay stuck and reliant on medications, because we all know we build a tolerance. And we all know
there's a huge addiction to it, right? Did you experience any form of addiction to it?
I think I was dependent for sure. I think I had withdrawals when I stopped.
I mean, and I just know how common it is. I know it's one of the biggest epidemics in this country.
Yeah.
Good. And I mean, you actually have a legit reason for.
Right. But I didn't want to rely on it.
Yeah.
Because I saw what was happening, and I had friends pass away from.
Oh, really? Like from OD and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, that's another topic, and it's really sad. And I didn't want to go down that road. I didn't want to be so dependent and reliant on the prescription medication. So I gradually weaned myself off of things and was able to get to a point where I was doing holistic things versus pharmaceutical.
Gotcha.
Which I'm not saying that's what everyone should do. I think it's a very personal choice,
But just be open to it and take your own, critically think, do your own path.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. And I think what also I've heard a lot of people say over the years is, well, I was just told to do this, so I am, by a doctor or a professional. And it's well, how do you feel though? Does it make you feel better? Well, no, I have all these side effects and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what if you tried something else or look into a different route, alternative?
I've had a pharmacist sit in this seat and tell me that people take 3 drugs and they could just take 1 if they took it for long enough.
Oh, jeez.
And it would that actually do the same result, but people would just want that.
Oh, yeah.
That quick fix.
Instant gratification.
Take more, take this, try these 3 at one time. Or I think we take 1 in the right dosage for long enough and then see if it works. And then we maybe add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as you got a lot of progression at first. What was it? Was it just, talk to me about that. Like you've got nothing, then you experience pain.
Oh yeah.
And then what comes next?
The nerve pain. And then they were nurses and doctors were really excited about the nerve pain. And I was like, well, this sucks.
But it's
shortly following that was a little pinky toe moving.
Oh really?
Yeah. And then,
what was that like mentally?
Oh man.
Is that's gotta be.
That was I was
do you remember the
willing.
Do you remember the first thing?
Oh yeah.
What was it? Was it a pinky? Was it a...
So at first...
Where were you? What happened?
I was in the bed. I was in the hospital bed. And
so you remember this clearly.
Oh, yeah.
This is awesome.
It's ingrained in my memory. My legs were straight. I'm laying straight. And I didn't have socks on so I could see my toes. And I was staring. I would do this very often.
Just like the movies, right?
Mental rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
So I would literally practice in my mind all the time as much as I could. When I wasn't in therapy or school or whatever, visiting with friends or doctors, I guess now I know it was a form of meditating, but I didn't know that then. I was just visualizing, and I would picture myself running because I was an athlete before. So I would picture myself doing the things that I had done before and I knew I could do again. So anyway, I was laying in bed. My legs were out straight. I didn't have socks on. And then all of a sudden I was just looking at my feet and I was like, move, telling my toes to move. And my little pinky toe just twitches out.
Way.
And I was like, Mom, call everyone. It was huge.
That's crazy.
So that was the very first movement.
I love you remember that so vividly. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then it was just other little things
I mean, your motivation must have been up from that. If I can move 1, I can move 2. If I can move 2, I can move.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then it started with then one time my legs were up and my leg was falling over and I could have just grabbed it with my arm and put it back up. But I was like, well, maybe I can lift it back up. And I did.
Oh, wow.
And I was because I couldn't feel my legs very well still. So I thought I felt it in my stomach. I was like, my stomach muscles moved my leg. And, but it was just it was moving. The feeling wasn't making the connection correctly.
That's crazy.
So that was the first 2 big movements before I was walking that are so stand out so much.
Yeah, I can tell you're so clear on that. And what you consistently progress, and then do you just hit a sticking point where it's just
I think that
how was that, and where was that? A plateau,
right?
A plateau being perfect.
So recovery was and then it was for 15 years.
Really?
We're talking a long time.
How long was that progression? How many years was you getting the progression?
During the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning. Was it
I
just
would say like the first 2 years.
Okay, so
like
it's probably...
first year especially, and then the second year too. And then after that, it kind of slowed down, and it kind of just stayed where I was. And I felt like I was still like getting stronger because I was still working out and doing my exercises. And I was still like making improvements, but like as far as walking and mobility went, it was kind of like just stayed the way it was for, I would say, for like a good 10, 15 years.
Really?
But during that time, I also was having my children. And so I was pregnant, I was raising kids, and so a lot was going on with my body.
Okay.
So I kind of gave myself grace at that moment, those years. And I was just like, this is what I'm doing right now. And that's a lot for my body. And I'm going to just focus completely on that, like growing this little human inside of me.
Yeah.
I have 4 kids. So
you have 4 kids. Wow. Yeah. So that's amazing.
So it was like a good decade of just like doing that.
This may be a naive question, but someone who is like paraplegic, are they able to have kids normally?
Oh, that's a totally normal question that I even wondered myself at first. And so this is what the nurse told me with my situation. She was like, I did not want to have this conversation, by the way, but she felt it was very important to tell me, Sara, your reproductive system still works. You
still works.
Can have kids.
Interesting.
You just won't be able to have a natural, or a vaginal childbirth.
Gotcha.
You'll have to have a C-section.
So why can't you do anything but inside it's working?
Well, I told them that's not going to be me, and I'm going to have my kids naturally. So, but at the time I was like, I'm 16 and I don't care about that right now. So I literally didn't think about it until I got married. And then I was like, oh, they told me I'd have to have C-sections. I don't want to have a C-section. I want to have a baby. And so I went and found a midwife because I refused to go to the hospital and see a doctor, because at the time there was a very high C-section rate in the valley. And so I was like, well, they are for sure going to just schedule me right away. And just like, you're too high risk. We're not even going to let you try. And so it was a fear. Looking back now, I think I could have went about it differently instead of being a fear-based. I could have just gone about it and informed myself of all the options. But ultimately, I chose a midwife. I had my first child at home with 2 midwives and a doula and all that.
Naturally or C-section?
Naturally.
Wow.
No. No medication.
You're amazing.
Just natural. I was just like, we're going to do this. I'm going to do it, and my body can do it.
So not to get too personal, but are you doing certain exercises to the ability to control certain parts of your body to be able to do that?
During that time?
Just in general, childbirth? You're working on your toes, you're working on different things. Are you working on certain areas
I was taking
to build strength to do that?
Birthing classes and whatever other types of things that go into that. And so I was doing what I could.
Okay.
And I always say everything I do is a modified Sara version, because I'm not fully able-bodied.
Working with what you can, yeah.
And I have to modify things so that I can do it. So I did the birthing classes. I learned as much as I could. It was, my first baby. And I just went into it as, I guess, educated as possible at the time.
Yeah.
And did what I thought was best or what I was instructed to do and all that. Everything went okay and fine. And I had my baby at home. And I did have a complication though. So the rest of my kids, I opted to have them in the hospital. But it wasn't anything to do with the home birth situation. It was just because of my medical background and situation. I had a seizure at the very end after the baby came out, after my daughter came out. And so we ended up transferring to the hospital, and they were thinking, well, perhaps she went preeclamptic right at the end. They don't really know for sure what happened. I never in my life had another seizure. Not once ever.
Were all your kids natural?
All of them are natural.
Wow.
After that. So the ones I just had in the hospital, but just to be on the safe side.
That's amazing.
And I still
So the best way to get you to do something is tell you can't.
You can't do it, yeah.
I'm the same, but you're doing a whole different level than I've ever done.
Oh, yeah?
That's the best way to motivate me, but oh my God. I want to get back to the pregnancy thing. Like, how can you not... So someone who is paralyzed or quadriplegic, are they able to have children? Like,
yeah.
How does that work?
Well, I don't know for everyone's situation.
Why can you not do certain things, but your body can still produce a baby?
That's where I was confused, and that's why I wanted to have a kid. Because
is that a silly question on my end?
No,
or is that pretty normal?
I think a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
Like, and then they're told like, oh well, you should probably just have a C-section. And I can't speak for everyone because I don't know all situations, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know that. That's not my field of expertise.
Forte type.
But for my experience, I just felt that I could do it, and my body could if I was able and given the chance to, and I did.
Yeah.
But for everyone else, I don't know. There's other people out there because I did research to find out if other people did do this, and there are, and I'm sure there's tons more sense, you know. But a lot of people don't even want to, like, whether they have an injury or not, they don't want to feel childbirth, and they opt for an epidural.
Yeah. You're like... But
I didn't want the epidural because I didn't want to be paralyzed again. I was like, no way is anyone going to mess with my spine and temporarily paralyze me for any reason. Yeah. I will have this baby and I will feel it all.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that was my approach.
I got more of a personal question, if you don't mind. So you kind of hit a plateau with your progression. Mentally, mental health, do you ever have negative thoughts? Do you ever want to give up? Where are you at that stage?
I mean, for sure. There's a period of time where you're just thinking, is this ever going to get any better? I did feel super discouraged for a period of time.
Were you pretty motivated at the start? Because it was just, and then when you hit that plateau, you start.
And I think, also because my focus shifted. I shifted from fully focusing on myself and my recovery to now I have a family.
What age did you have your first child?
What?
What age did you have your first child?
I was 20. I was pretty young.
Yeah, okay. So it's only 4 years later.
Yeah,
gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Long. So I had a good few years of just focusing on that. And then, like I said, the focus shifted. And when I had kids, I boom, boom, boom. Like we had 2 right away together. And then there was like a 4-year gap and then 2 more right away. And then it was just nonstop. And then at the end of it, when my youngest was only 2, I went through a divorce. So then after that, I was raising my kids as a single mom. And they're really, every parent knows this, you're almost entirely consumed with your...
Oh, you live for your kids.
Parenting life.
Yeah. So you went from recovery and all of a sudden, like, it's not about you anymore, it's about your children.
Right. And I still went and I did, like, physical therapy.
Your priorities changed, though. Like,
it just wasn't... it wasn't always the first priority.
Gotcha.
But as they got older, it became easier to make it more of a priority.
Gotcha.
And so surprisingly, like shockingly, if you were to ask doctors, and if I were to go back to the same doctors that saw me in the hospital at the beginning, they probably wouldn't recognize me today. Just like, who are you walking in like that?
Did that, do you think shifting your priorities slow down your progression, or you feel like the progression stopped and then that's...
I think it was a lot of things. I think I was not in the most healthy relationship. So mentally that affected me. I was highly consumed with my children and raising them. At one point I started going back to school. So I was a full-time student while my kids were very young. Okay. So there was a lot of things, and I felt like, just you're being pulled in a lot of directions.
If all those things were taken out of the equation and you're just getting back to the health as the priority, do you think you could be further along or not?
Probably.
And I don't mean to be offensive at all.
No, not at all, but probably.
Okay.
I think so, because now as the kids are older and I do have more time to focus on my health and my recovery and stuff again, I've been making improvements.
You have?
All these years later. It's crazy.
Okay, so that's another question I had.
Yeah.
So even now today, if you solely 100% dedicated to you can make progression.
Yeah, and nobody can do that. Like, you still have to work. You still have to, you have other life obligations.
But I mean, like, literally, like, making it more of a priority, I guess, is a better way.
So within the last, I would say, during the pandemic, it was weird. Like everything was just weird during the pandemic. It was hard to get into therapy for me. It was hard to go to the gym. So like that kind of like, I felt like was another plateau where I didn't really make any progress, but I wasn't like getting worse. And that was actually a fear of mine at the beginning, is that not that I wouldn't recover, but I would get worse.
Okay.
And life would get harder than
that's a good point too. Yeah.
And you hear that a lot. And for example, bed sores are a thing that people in wheelchairs struggle with. And so I have never dealt with that.
Okay.
Thank goodness. But it is a thing. And so there's a lot of things. There's so many complications. And then other, I think they call them like second medical issues or secondary medical issues on top of a spinal cord injury, which is the first one. So then like for me, I had a couple knee surgeries because I had fallen and torn the meniscus.
Okay.
So that would have been a secondary medical issue.
Or even like the way you're walking, putting weird pressure on the joints because it's not aligned
now
properly.
I have massive back pain because I walk the way I walk. My gait pattern's not normal.
Yeah, interesting.
So those are all reasons why I have had to like continue physical therapy. But then I even got to a point with physical therapy where they were just like, well, we have to discharge you because there's nothing else we can do for you. But I was like, but I'm still in pain and I'm still not 100% recovered. And they're like, well, you probably never will be. And I was just always so dissatisfied with that comment. And
that's the attitude that's got you so far, is that attitude.
Yeah, probably.
If you accepted that, you wouldn't be where you're at now. So
for sure.
That's amazing. How did you meet your you're not with the first guy that you were trying?
Oh, my kid's dad?
Yeah.
No, we divorced.
How did you meet him?
We met through some mutual friends.
Was he like was walking, talking completely normal? Like, was it someone similar situation? Like, how did that come across? And I mean,
yeah, he does not have a spinal cord injury, if that's what you're asking.
No, but I mean, like, where do you guys meet? Like, that's...
it was a gathering of a bunch of friends. We met at a park, and we got into things very quickly. It was a very quick engagement, and we got married really young. And I think that was also partly why things didn't work out for us. I feel like we didn't really have a chance to really get to know each other. And anyway, we were married for 11 years.
Okay.
And he was in the Navy for a part of that time. So we traveled around and had all of our kids together, and eventually came back to Las Vegas because our families live here. Yeah. And we went our separate ways.
How's your state of mind at that age, like going through what you're going through as far as like dating in a relationship? Did you think that you would find someone? Do you think no? I mean, you get a single mom, right, who's had a child, and they're like, oh, yeah, no one's going to want to date me because I got a child. I mean, you're going through a hell of a lot of different things.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Did your I guess your confidence, your self-confidence be
affected? For sure. I would say before my accident, I was extremely confident in that aspect. But then after that, I definitely felt very self-conscious because everything's different. And, you know, where you would just walk up to somebody and casually, hi, I'm Sara. Yeah. You know, now I'm like hobbling over to you for 10 minutes and you're like, what's this lady doing? Yeah. So it's just different and awkward. But you take those and you learn how to make it unique to you, I think.
But it also must be an amazing reflection on the person you're with because they're seeing you for who you really are too, right?
There has to be that in there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
That's what a true connection is what's on the inside, not the exterior.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but you know what I'm getting at, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, to my benefit, that's helped kind of sift out some not so great people because a lot of people will look at you and they'll be like, I don't want anything to do with that.
yeah, exactly. And the people do.
And you don't want anything to do, like, I don't want anything to do with that either if somebody isn't on board or.
Yeah, it's just eliminated for them. Eliminated it for you. Like,
made it easier.
Somebody's going to be in your life. You know they're a good person. Like, you know they're the right person for you.
Yeah, they have some good qualities. Yeah, for sure.
America, medical system. It's not the best. It's very expensive. How How did you guys deal with that? I'm sure it was.
I don't even know. That's not, because I was so young. That was just something my parents handled.
Mm.
And then at some point, I was disabled. So then you go into
Getting the benefit.
The disabled benefits.
Okay.
So I've always fell into that category. And then as I became an adult, it was a little bit weird learning how to navigate becoming independent and providing for myself, like working, and then figuring out how to work and take care of my recovery. And then some days are not good. Like they're like, I can't get out of bed. My body doesn't want to cooperate. There's all this weird stuff is happening. I'm in massive pain. Like other people with spinal cord injuries totally get that. And so it makes it hard to really be able to work full time. At least that was my experience in the beginning.
Yes, I know, especially in this country, is it's you can have something really bad happen to you, but then you've got the expense on top of it.
Yeah.
Like Australia, we look after our own people. Like
I don't know how other countries do.
Like you go to hospital and it's for free and you get looked after. But I know over here it's completely different.
Is
no
it?
Insurance, you're pretty screwed.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering that side of it.
Well, even with insurance, they're like, well, we'll give you this, but not that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for me, because I'm considered a walking quadriplegic by diagnosis, they were like, I was like, well, I kind of need a new wheelchair. It's been a long time, like over 15 years. I've been using the same wheelchair. And because I didn't use it all the time. So it held up really well. And I actually still have the same wheelchair from the hospital. Like I don't
really?
Hardly ever use it, but I've never gotten another one.
Really? And
I could have, but it was always like, well, we'll give you a wheelchair, or we'll give you an electric wheelchair, or we'll give you an electric scooter. But these things are massive. And I was like, that's not going to get me around in the ways I need to get around. That's not what I need. I need something different. So that was frustrating. And then, I mentioned earlier, like physical therapy, they kind of like, they hit a limit for you. They're like, oh, this is all we can do for you. So you don't need physical therapy anymore. No. So I had to do my own research as far as continued therapy. And I've paid out of pocket for that,
Gotcha.
Because it's not covered by insurance, but it was something else that was going to help. And I'm glad I did, because it has helped. But yeah.
There's so many things I want to touch on. I want to make sure we cover all of it. But you did mention earlier that you got offered an electric wheelchair and you refused it.
Oh, yeah.
Why was that?
Well,
I love this.
At that point, I was already walking around most of the time.
Yeah.
I rarely used my manual wheelchair. And I wanted something motorized to get me around quicker, but I didn't need to be in a full-blown electric wheelchair.
Completely reliant. Because
that's like for other people have that need, but that wasn't where I was at. And I didn't want to just take take it or be given it to me, because I felt like, well, I'm not going to use it. First of all, I'm really, and also too,
you're trying to. And we're very careful how we say this, but you wanted to continue to push yourself to continue to grow and adapt.
Right.
Opposed to kind of step back and take the easier route.
I guess I kind of felt like if I were to go into an electric wheelchair at that point, it would have felt like a regression for me.
Yeah.
At that point.
For you, yeah. And we want to be very clear, for you specifically.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with other people doing it that way.
And everyone's so unique and individual. Yeah. And I think you really have to take that, personally for yourself, and what do I need? And there was times where I didn't want to use my wheelchair, but I needed to.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I really just want to walk everywhere, but my walking is painful, or my walking is so slow, or I'll never make it to the bathroom if I don't have wheels.
Yeah. Wow. There's
so many things.
So many things, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. It really makes you just appreciate the basic things.
You really do.
So you're transitioning into, you're going from teaching, you want to get into speaking.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So I've been unofficially doing speaking engagements since I was 16.
Unofficially?
Unofficially,
what does that mean?
Meaning on a volunteer basis.
Okay. Who are you speaking to? How big are groups? Where are you speaking?
My dad created a whole program based on my accident. And we would go and speak to the youth in our church.
Okay.
And so sometimes it was small groups, sometimes it was big groups. But that was like the main thing that we did for quite a few years. I would say probably till I had children. And then maybe a little bit even after that. But a lot of things kind of got put on hold in the early years of parenting for me.
Okay.
And that was one of them.
Okay.
So within...
so you had to put it on the back burner for a
Yeah,
bit.
it just kind of sat there. It was always something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But really, when my kids were little, that was all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to raise them and give them that. And I did.
Yeah.
And I got to do that for them. So that was where my focus was, and that was fine for me in my life. But like I said earlier, as they've gotten older, I've been able to like go back to school. I've been able to pursue my other dreams and occupations or desires. So one of the things I started doing during the pandemic was like not webinars, but like online speaking engagements, like with colleges and universities, specifically in their disability department.
What are you talking about exactly? Are you talking mindset? Are you talking about just like continue to, like, what is it you're talking about?
Speaking to...
when you speak, what are the things you're trying to get across to these people?
Oh, okay. So, well, I think we maybe mentioned it earlier, but the message of becoming and looking at your adversities in a way of, oh, this is a learning opportunity. This happened. It's hard. Yes, let's acknowledge that. It's different. But it doesn't mean your life is over. That's what I hear so much from people. And it's like, to me, I'm just like, well, that's just silly. Come on. Your life isn't over. It's different.
But at one point, did you think that way?
No. I honestly did.
Yeah.
I really
you haven't given me
didn't.
any indication that you felt that way.
When I had my accident, I was still in the wheelchair. I was told my boyfriend at the time, he was like, we were rolling around in wheelchairs, playing together in wheelchairs, because he would come and visit me in the hospital. And I said, if I'm in a wheelchair forever, I'm just going to play wheelchair sports. Like, that's all there is to it.
So you had a boyfriend, the accident happened.
Yeah.
And he came in.
Not before. We actually got together during, like, the hospital days.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he just kept coming every day.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I can't date anyone else. But he's amazing.
That's awesome.
I'm just really... probably the best boyfriend I could have ever had. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was great.
And then you wanted to get into the sports, you're saying.
Yeah, so I was like, well, adaptive sports, okay.
Yeah.
It never, it just was always okay. Whatever was it going to happen, whether I recovered or not, it was okay. And I was going to live the fullest life I could live.
Does that come from your mom, your dad, your grandparents? What is that?
I don't know.
Is something you're born with?
Maybe both of them. Maybe.
I mean, that's a pretty rare attitude. Like, that's an amazing attitude. Most people, their life come to an end because their frappuccino's being made. It's so true though. I talk about perspective all the time. Everyone's, especially in America, the perspective is so messed up.
Really?
So messed. People just don't realize how damn lucky they are. Just to live in America, how lucky you are.
Well, I don't know because I'm here, so you have that perspective for sure.
I mean, I'm from Australia, so I mean, I'm just as lucky too. But it's, I don't know. It really bugs me. We're so lucky. Like 2/3 of the world don't have clean water. There's communist countries. There's so many different crappy things you could have.
Right. When you think of like our first world problems.
Yeah.
You're like,
so,
is it really?
And then someone going through what you're being through, having such a great attitude. Like you are the pinnacle of what this podcast is about. So that's why I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
That's so cool. So you're speaking, you're talking about this stuff. You're talking about trying to, your life's different, but it's not over.
Yeah.
How do you kind of get through to someone like keeping that positive mindset and continuing to push to maybe see you move forward, right? Like you may not be necessarily stuck where you're at. You could progress. Yeah.
Well, I think what was so curious and interesting to me was like, why, because I've been told that before, like your attitude is different or whatever. And I was like, why is that? why am I different? Wouldn't anyone just do what I'm doing? And most people will say no.
100%.
No, they don't. I know there are great people out there.
You are literally like 0.1% who think that. I'm serious. It's so rare.
So I was very curious about what that is. And it's got to be a perspective and a mindset, right?
100%.
And so I went to school to get my psychology degree because I was very fascinated with how the mind works.
Yeah.
So I did that. I got my psychology degree, and then I wanted to further my education. And so I branched off into neurolinguistics, and I was just fascinated about that. And that really helped explain what's going on. And now I'm like, oh, now I know when people say things to me, I know where they're thinking of that. And
you understand it better.
Yeah. And I can help them shift it into that different perspective. So it's really about a lot of self-talk, limiting beliefs and decisions that we put on ourselves. That's huge. The story we tell ourselves.
I talk about this with business and money, not adversity. That's why it's so good to hear this.
Yeah. Well, if it applies for business and career, why wouldn't it apply for life and whatever else, right?
Oh, 100%. But
yeah.
I was having coffee this morning with friends talking about limited mindset and capping yourself at income and capping yourself with everything. And you don't believe in that. I love it.
Absolutely not.
And no one's ever taught you that. It's just something you've...
No, I don't think...
I mean, you got it somewhere, but wherever you got it...
There's definitely things, but then there's a lot of unprogramming you have to do from the way you were raised and the other things that you've observed in your life.
100%, yeah.
So there were beliefs that were not serving me that I had to release and let go of so I could continue healing. And that's also why I think partly why my journey is continuing. I think I could have just stayed and just been where I was. Yeah. And then been like that forever, probably until I died or whatever. But through my continuous, relentless search for a healing journey, not only physically, but the mental part and emotional aspect are huge. So it's really an embodiment of everything: your spiritual wellness, your physical wellness, your mental wellness, and your emotional wellness. And when you combine all those things together and you're working on all those things, it creates a beautiful synergy of healing. Love that. That's amazing. That's beautiful. That's how I love that. I want to know you as a mom. You have 4 healthy kids. Yeah. What do you tell them, and what can I tell my daughter to really appreciate everything they've got? Well, I think because they grew up with me, how is that perspective? They have a very different perspective. Do they really appreciate it? Have you done a good job with them? I mean, you hope so, right? You try. How old are your kids now? How old? Yeah. My oldest is 17. Okay. And then my second, he'll be 16 soon. And our third will be 12 soon. Yeah. Like their birthdays are next month. And then my youngest is 10. Okay. So first of all, they grew up with me being disabled. Yeah. So we're talking, they had to become super independent from a very young age. There was no coddling, but that's also part of my personality. I'm like a tough love kind of mom. Yeah. And I will give all the empathy and all the nurturing a child needs. And that goes right along with being an elementary school teacher. It's very natural for me to do that. But kids need discipline, and they need consequences, and they need structure, and you have to enforce it as the parent. 100%. So there's that tough love, that counselor. You don't want to be a helicopter parent. You don't want to be a drill sergeant. You don't want to tell them how to do everything, because then they'll never learn for themselves. Yeah, never grow their own wings. But at the same time, they never got away with an excuse ever. I was gonna say, no. have you got a funny go-to when they complain? I feel like you got to go on. And they're like, "Mom, I don't want to do this," or it's too hard," or "Can you go get me something?" Like, it's easier for them to do. Oh, my legs hurt because I'm getting tired. You have good legs. You use them. That's what I was wondering. I knew you had something for me. Yeah. I knew you had something. That's one thing that's been said. And it just puts them in the spot, right? They're just like, oh, okay. And what can you say, right? Right. They got nothing. Yeah. Doesn't matter how. Right. Okay. That's awesome. But I just never let them dwell in any type of self-pity. Like, we acknowledge our feelings, because that's crucial.
Yeah, acknowledge it, right?
And we address what's being felt and going on, and we work through it. But there is not going to be any wallowing. There is no pitying. There is no, woe is me, I'm the victim. No.
Yeah.
We don't do that at my house.
Yeah, and by doing that, you're setting them up to succeed very well. Probably more than you realize.
I have to say, like, I see a lot of kids and teenagers, and I've got some of the best. And I mean, maybe I'm biased, but like the things that, like my daughter, for example, my 17-year-old daughter, the things that she does just because she's used to it are not typical, are not when we go somewhere, she gets my scooter out for me. I don't even have to ask my kids. They just do it because they know it's easier for them to do it and help me. You know, when we go grocery shopping, they bring in all the groceries because obviously it's harder for mom to do it. Yeah. You know, so there's this kind of like give and take in a different type of way that I've noticed with my kids. My kids see somebody struggling, they help them. They've been raised in a way where I think they just see things differently.
What is the thing you're most proud about your children?
Well, they're all so unique and individual. I mean, I could go on, but they're caring and in tune. Meaning if they saw somebody else out there who needed help, they would pick up on that.
They'd be the first person there.
And they're empathetic and they're understanding. And I think those are just things that maybe that's part of their personalities also, but also because of being raised by a disabled mom. Yeah. And they've just had to learn things differently. And I expect it. I expect them to. They see a mom with a stroller, go help her open the door. Or, you know, like something like that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
That's been expected from me to them. They're like, to do.
That's amazing.
But they're kids, you know. We're all humans.
Yeah, exactly. So you're working. You got a partner, right? You and your partner working on a contraption. Something.
Oh, it's my brother. Yeah.
That's your brother, is it? Okay, so you and your brother,
like business partner, brother. Yeah.
So what is it you're working on?
It's a scooter, mobility scooter. It's the in-between a wheelchair and an electric.
The in-between.
And like really
so somebody who hasn't given up on I'm stuck here, but someone who's not quite here.
Yeah. And I literally told him that.
Which is you.
Exactly. I said, there's nothing out here like this. Like, we need to create this.
So what is this?
What is it? I know I should have brought it in for you.
It's explain it to me.
So it's literally an electric scooter that we modified with a seat and 3 wheels.
Okay.
And that's it. And fabricated it to have this swivel seat. It has 2 back wheels. It has a platform to put my feet on. Yep. And a little cane holders in the front so I can clip my cane in. And it just zips around so quick. It's light.
How fast does it go?
It goes like 17 miles an hour.
Oh, nice.
I don't use
So you're moving.
I mean,
you can move if you want to now.
Yeah, we do races and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
And who is this designed for? Like you mentioned a whole bunch of different people.
Designed for.
Like who's this going to benefit?
For those in-betweeners. So people who have either been injured, like it could be a knee injury. You know, it could be
so it could be something where you're going to recover from.
And you're going to recover.
Okay, so it could be a sports injury or you've had surgery or something. Yeah, and you're going to come back.
And you're going to come back, and you don't need. You know how they have the little knee scooters out there?
Yeah.
So it's like similar to that, but with a motor. Okay. And also the intention was kind of not necessarily for just like an injury, but somebody who is more like me in this weird long-term recovery where I could get better, but I need to preserve my body, because if I'm always overexerting myself just to do the daily functions or just to get from point A to point B, I don't have the energy to work on those recovering exercises that I need to do.
Yeah, you're just surviving. You're not able to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So we called it the platypus.
The platypus.
Yeah, because
a stream.
I know.
Talk to me about this.
Well, you know what a platypus looks like.
I know what a platypus is.
It literally looks like a bunch of animals all sewn together, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of different animals.
Yeah, that's true. Like Perry the platypus.
Yeah, they're just so unique and funny looking, right?
Yeah.
And adorable.
They are cute though.
They are so cute. But so my brother, when he first started configuring these contraptions, like in his garage, he was literally taking different pieces of medical equipment.
Gotcha.
And it looked hideous.
That makes a lot of, okay.
The first one
sense.
that I ever used.
Who named it?
I did.
Okay.
I was like,
you like Australian animals? Like, you're familiar? Or?
I do. I used to have a dog named Toowoomba.
Did you really? How do you know about Toowoomba?
My kid's dad went and lived in Australia for a couple years.
Okay, gotcha.
And so
I'll be military.
I had a fondness for Australia, but I've always liked it.
Gotcha.
So those were the two main things.
You and like every other American.
I know,
yeah,
right?
Americans love Australia.
Well, I want to go. I've never been. But...
I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard that. You got to make sure you go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And then can this be for like people with like say Parkinson's or people who've had heart attack or things like that?
Any type of
assistance.
Yeah, any type of assistance that you need. So you have to be to a level of mobility where you can use it, because it's not for everyone.
I was gonna say, how safe is it as far as balance?
I mean,
things
you
like
need
that?
that. You need to have, that's what I mean. You need to have some core strength. You need to have some feet mobility.
Yeah.
Because this is not an electric wheelchair or scooter. This is very
a little bit more
thin,
agile and zippy. Which is great if you in the right.
Yes, for the right user.
Yeah, for the right user.
That's why it's not for everyone.
Yeah, okay.
There's already stuff out there that's amazing. Like, I don't even want to try to reinvent all that amazing stuff that is out there for electric wheelchairs and scooters and all the awesome devices that you can put onto them, the sip and puffs. And like,
how do you find out more about that piece of equipment, the platypus?
Oh, so from my website.
What's the website?
It's SaraLynnCoach.com.
Okay. And you go there and look it up. It's available?
Yeah. Well,
or is it in
we're doing
production?
Pre-orders.
Okay.
In production.
Gotcha. And how's that going?
It's exciting.
Is it?
It's exciting. Every time I go anywhere, especially the strip, for example.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I get stopped. Where did you get that? How do I get one of those? I need to buy one. My dad needs that. My grandpa needs this.
Let me know if you need help with that. So I do photos and videos and stuff.
That'd be amazing.
If you need help, I can definitely help with that.
Yeah,
because I know that can go a long way, just social media and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're just like working out the details of how do we produce it? How are we going to market it? How are we going to insure it? You know, and make sure it's safe for everyone. I've been the guinea pig for this whole like project. Me and my brother.
That's always fun, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's definitely some prototypes that we're like, no, we cannot give this to anyone else because look at my leg.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Not safe. We need to tweak that. So it's been in the works for quite at least 2-3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so we're like getting to the point where it's ready to share.
Awesome. That's so cool. Before we finish up, is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything you want to get across to anybody? I mean, you've got amazing story, amazing perspective. Is there anything you want to share that I may have missed?
I mean, you really touched on a lot of key things, but I think just ending on like recapping on the being your own adversity adventurist and looking at that.
You're going to get me thinking about this every day.
Yeah, right? Why not?
Because I mean, that can apply for anybody, right?
It really can. And you don't have to have like a life-changing event to let yourself think that way. A friend was saying, yeah, like people spill their coffee and it ruins their whole day. You know,
they hit a red light. It's ridiculous.
And it's like, why are we doing that to ourselves? So that is like the last, I guess, message I would like to say is just when you look at your life and your situations, how are you looking at it? Are you looking at it as a growth mindset? Are you going to learn from this experience? Are you going to allow it to carve and create and develop you into this new person? Are you going to allow that? Are you going to look at it as an adventure, as something fun, as something you can learn and grow from? Or are you going to let it tear you down? See the worst and everything. Yeah. Yeah. What I like to say is like, everyone's so focused on what they don't have opposed to what you do have. And what you do have may just be a simple thing like a car that runs. Yeah.
And maybe an old car, but it works.
Yeah.
Or the ability to have $5 to buy a coffee on the way to work. The fact you got a job and you do have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
It can just quite be the simple stuff.
Yeah. And looking at where you're at right now and like being okay with that and being okay with what's to come and knowing that it's always going to change. And not, it's almost like a level of satisfaction, but also knowing that there's more. So being satisfied where you're at, but wanting more and being okay with what unfolds in the process. And stuff's going to happen. We're all going to have challenges. We're all going to face adversity. But how are you going to face it? How are you going to let it affect your life and help you develop into your full potential? Because that's why I think we have things like this that happen to us.
100%.
Yeah. Because we can learn from it.
That's why we get sick. So we appreciate being healthy. I mean, that's a simple way of putting it, but I believe that's why we get sick. If we're always healthy, we take it for granted.
Yeah, you definitely see it differently, right?
Yeah, 100%. Simple thing, just getting common cold for a week. Next week, I'm back at the gym. I'm eating better.
Yeah.
But you needed to get sick to appreciate that.
Yeah, sometimes that does happen. But imagine if we could just, like, stuff is still going to happen. You're still going to get sick. You're still going to, you know, have a job that comes and goes, partners that come and go, whatever it is, like stuff is going to happen. But if you can maintain this mindset of, it's okay that this event is happening. I'm going to learn from it. It might suck right now. I don't want to live in this space forever, but I know it's going to change.
Yeah.
And not letting yourself dwell and get stuck. I think that's what happens with a lot of people.
Yeah.
They get stuck in these places and then they dwell on it and ruminate and then it just festers, right?
Festers, yeah.
It's just ugly.
Yeah. No, I get it. I love it.
And so if you were to just, I've been there. I've been in that state of mind, you know, other aspects of my life or different times in my life where I just was super discouraged about something. But when you get out of that and you look at it with a different perspective and you're like, oh, that was silly. It really didn't. I was torturing myself with all those negative thoughts, you know, and look at it in the positive.
I love it.
Positive perspective. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. That was an absolute pleasure. That was, very grateful for you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.